call your attention. Our next item on the agenda is recognitions, but before we get into that, in looking and reviewing the number of people that we have for citizens to be heard, we have 17 people that have signed up to speak on RFIDs, and we noticed that the two people there are two people signed up to speak regarding to the budget. I want to read a piece that we do have in our policy, and that is that the board need not provide a public forum for every citizen wishing to express an opinion on a matter. And this is in BED legal. Reasonable restraints on the number, length, and frequency of presentations are permissible. The board may limit the number of persons it will hear on a particular subject and the frequency with which they appear. It is my recommendation to the board that we do limit some of those people, the number of some of the people who are speaking to RFIDs, especially since we have heard some of the comments at the last meeting, and our administration has been very open to any comments from parents that we've had. So it is my recommendation, unless there's an objection from the board, that we have 5 people speak to RFIDs, and they will be given 3 minutes each. Is there any objection from the board? No. Okay. Mr. Hernandez, if you would come forward, to somebody, I will give you this list of those people who have signed up to speak. You're able to, or if you want to, you can go outside and decide who it is that you would like to speak before we get to that particular item.
5 people for 5 minutes.
You can go outside and discuss it. Or whoever it is can name those people. Okay, at this time we do have several recognitions. I ask the board to go down to the floor, and we'll shake hands and hand out certificates.
Too many people. You've got too much support.
Too much free speech.
Too much support for your cause.
We keep raising our taxes.
I apologize if they're not going to let us speak. I appreciate all the comments.
Oh, this isn't your fault at all.
Well, it says a lot that, a cause that so many people support that they're going to stifle the voice on.
You might remember Carrie. She was our Rawlinson Innovator of the Year a couple of years ago. High school. And he has served the last couple of years as president and has done a really good job. We're going to miss him.
Well, Karen Freeman was upset because we had 17 people who wanted to speak tonight, and it's to be expected by Karen Freeman to go ahead and squash our citizens to be heard. It was to be expected. They did this purposely. We need to beat these people, and today we're going to stomp them in the ground. That's just plain and simple. Pressure on one, okay? And she's going to sit there and tell you not to roll your eyes. You can't clap, you can't cheer, but yet she can roll her eyes and hump and honk all the way.
Has there been any way to gather their opinions since our last board meeting?
No, sir.
No.
They refuse, and Pasquale's always talking. Pasquale's always knocking us down. Pasquale has a habit of knocking down my daughter, knocking me down. This is no longer going to stand. I've had it with NISD. We're going to fight, and we're going to fight big tonight. And we're going to come again and fight again.
We're going to come
again. Yeah!
Yeah! Spirit of 1776 strong.
Look at all these people out here to support the Hernandez family and all the other parents that are standing up for their religious freedom in San Antonio.
The citizens to be heard. This is an item on the agenda that we do not have to participate in as a board. I read you the legal policy.
School has failed. Now my children are being failed, my grandchildren. So this is the beginning before you and before legislature that I will let them know they need more money for these kids, and they don't need them to use them as far as, giving the officers more rights to pull them over and frisk them and consenting to that thing is going to put more danger of our kids out in the street to be, I guess I want to say, targeted. And I'm sorry that that lady wasn't here. The mayor's program, the pre-K, that I see it taken away from our schools. It's going to be selective, and it's taking away money from the education from public schools. And we are needing our money. We are needing more than 50% of whatever they're giving us, the legislature is giving us. And I'm here just saying this because it is affecting my grandchildren, and I am going to fight. And this is just the beginning. This is the beginning, because if you look at your kids, and if you look at that record, you can be positive as much as you want, but if you look at that record, it's not going to change the ones that are headed to prison. Thank you.
Liana Ibanez. Hello.
I'm Liana Ibanez. I am speaking also on behalf of my children. That was my mother who was just here speaking. Your pillars are crumbling. There's no more integrity here. There's no dignity. You guys, as a whole, and I say that because I work with my child at home, are failing our children. My child is being left behind, and we're told children who are 2 grades lower will get the help before my child will, and she is already failing. You're putting money into things such as this ID deal. You want to talk about history? We know that the Jews were tattooed during the Holocaust. What are you doing here? It's not benefiting the children. It's taking from their education that they are in dire need of. These children are going to junior high and high school and cannot read, but yet you want to track them. I would hate to sit in a classroom and be humiliated because I don't know how to read because my district failed me in putting money into something else other than my education. You're building a pipeline to prison, not to college.
Mrs. Ibanez, we asked that you said you were speaking on the budget and not pertaining to our.
It is budget.
The budget. That money is going
Okay, we do
none
not.
other than where it needs to be. This is a very hostile environment, and you guys are very unprofessional. Thank you.
We will allow you to speak. There will be no other comments in the boardroom when someone else is talking or at any other time, or we will stop this right now. That is the second warning, one more than we needed to have. First person to speak, the next person to speak, Michael Perez. Again, no interruptions. We don't need any other comments from anybody else while Mr. Perez is speaking.
Thank you. I appreciate your time and your efforts and your diligence in doing your best to serve our community. I appreciate that. I'm a member of the school district that surrounds Anson Jones and John Jay High School. I actually attended both schools when I was a little kid. I was a quarterback at John Jay and all that good stuff.
If you'd like to push the thing up so you're a little bit more comfortable.
Okay, thanks. I'm here today because I have drawn a few conclusions personally, and when I heard Andrea was taking a biblical stance to this dilemma, I had to first search myself and ask myself what biblical stance. Because my understanding is she feels like she's being violated on her right to freedom of her freedom of religion or her expression of how she walks with God. That's my understanding. I know there's many voices in the room today that may be contrary to that, but I'm speaking on that part only. That's where I come from, that's where I stand. And when we teach our kids to think for themselves, that includes being educated and then seeking wisdom. And wisdom, from my perspective, comes from what we call the scriptures. There's a scripture verse that says that I'm to hide God's word in my heart so that I would not sin against him. You invoke God before your meeting, asking for the presence of God to be with us as we go forth. I am in agreement. I also run into a scripture that talks about the book of Revelations. It prophesies of a time, a very dangerous time. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, I'm just a dad, okay? And the scripture verse says in Revelations 13:16, and he, being Satan, causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead. And no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the number of his name. Now, from her perspective, she's drawing the conclusion that she's not allowed to participate in the economy of the school unless she has this mark. Now, I am not allowed to infringe on her personal belief that she is required and mandated to wear that if it infringes on her religious freedom. So I'm here to say that in light of her decision, I can understand that as a teenager who has a personal conviction. And I agree with that stance. I looked at the scriptures also times where people had to obey God rather than man. Okay? And you're only allowed to do that when you have a conviction and you have a biblical reason for doing so. So I stand with her in saying that I agree. Therefore, I'm drawing the conclusion that this pilot program should not continue, because part of the coins that you were given was to serve as a pillar, to serve. And my question is who? Thank you.
Thank you. Heather, and I'm sorry, I can't. Ask you. Okay, please come forward.
Good evening. I certainly hope that we have a public forum being scheduled so that the citizens of this community have an opportunity to address you, even though they do come in numbers, because there are quite a few people who are upset about this program. My name is Heather Fazio. I'm with Texans for Accountable Government, which is one of the endorsers of a position paper which has been delivered to you, I believe, last month, which talks about the privacy violations that this program puts onto our children, the health risks of it, and then also the violation of religious freedom, which you just heard very eloquently presented by the last speaker. The health risks associated. I was at the Public Utility Commission meeting, and we were learning about smart meters and the radio frequencies that these emit. And this is exactly the same kind of radio frequency that is constantly being emitted by these ID badges being worn by children. We are electrical beings. We have neurological functions that are interrupted and influenced by this radio frequency radiation. And I think that until we have a health impact study that determines that it is safe for our children, we should not be subjecting them to experimental technology. Secondly, this is corporatism in action. We are seeing it at the federal level, the state level, and here we are at the local level with our children being subjected to these corporate predators coming in, looking for a market for what they manufacture. We have microchip manufacturers all throughout the country looking for a market, and they are coming and selling it to our school districts in the way of safety, which it doesn't keep children safe. We have surveillance cameras and administrators all over schools. It's not going to keep them safe. It's only going to increase funding, which is how they sell it to you, and you can't hear the voices of the people because there's dollar bills shoved in our ears, and we're fighting for resources, which is exactly why I intend on keeping my kids entirely out of the school system so they aren't subjected to this kind of nonsense. Finally, and most importantly, is the disgusting abuse of power resulting in the violation of these students' religious freedom. And it's not just Andrea. This program and the express consequences with not falling in line with it have created a chilling effect in the students in these schools and making them afraid to stand up for themselves. Now, I am not a Christian, but I understand the value in a free society where we respect the rights of others to walk with God however they see fit. And this young lady and all of the children at this school are being violated every day that this program is in effect. We need to stop it immediately until we can get a health impact study done. And thank God, this is a pilot program. And at the end of the school year, I hope that it goes by the wayside and we never have to see this come in to any of the school districts in Northside again. I thank you very much for your favorable consideration for a policy that protects the privacy rights of our kids, the health concerns that they have with the radio frequency, and their religious freedom that is inherent in every single one of them as a free human being on this planet. Thank you very much.
Mr. Hernandez, or Mr. Alfred Karloff?
Yes, ma'am.
Sure, go ahead.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Al Gerloff. I'm a retired Master Sergeant from the U.S. Air Force, communications specialist, combat cameraman, and journalist and public relations are my backgrounds. I have a son that goes to John Jay. He's in the Science and Engineering Academy. And I have some concerns about his health risks. And excuse me if I'm a little nervous. I'm not used to normally doing this. I'm not one to speak out, but I'm very concerned specifically with my knowledge of the dangers of RF radiation. First, I'm going to start off with just asking the board some questions, which I don't expect to be answered in this forum. And then I just have a closing statement. And I'll try to do it all within the time allowed. Okay. My first question is NISD receiving any private, federal, state, or local government funding to be a test bed, or I should say a science project for RFID student tracking? And if so, by whom? Why does NISD believe that RFID technology is safe, despite the UN World Health Organization's 31 May report that has classified radio frequency electromagnetic fields as possibly carcinogenic to humans based on the increased risk of glioma and malignant type of brain cancer? Also, I'd like to ask the board, can NISD afford the possible legal liabilities associated with RF radiation illnesses imposed on NISD students and staff? I'd also like to know, has NISD conducted comprehensive and independent health studies on the effects of constant RF radiation exposure from RFID equipment and its effect that it will have on students and staff in the long term? And have all necessary RF equipment emissions tests and environmental impact studies been physically conducted on the entire John Jay and Anson Jones school campuses to ensure occupant RF exposure is at a safe level according to all applicable federal, state, and local laws? And if these reports have been generated, are they available for public viewing? I take great pride, and I'm not here to beat anyone up tonight, any of you fellow folks. I have many relatives that are school teachers or work in school administration, including my wife. All right? I understand the tough jobs that are ahead. And I'm also very proud for my son to be in the Science and Engineering Academy. However, my personal experience, I had 25 years of experience with dealing with communications equipment of all sorts, and even doing the testing and integration to be fielded in every base worldwide. I've had my technical solutions been fielded in over 160 Intel units. I come to this table with a certain degree of knowledge on the subject. I'm not out just throwing stones for the sake of throwing stones.
I'm sorry, Mr. Carl.
Okay.
Right for that.
Okay, I'm sorry. So as I wrap it up, my closing statement is, the UN World Health Organization has reported that radio frequencies okay, I already did that. Okay, sorry. As life on Earth can be classified as bioelectric, our hearts and brains are regulated by complex electric signals. Man-made EMRs and EMFs are genotoxic, meaning that they can interfere with delicate electrical processes in the human body relating to cellular degeneration and DNA damage. RF radiation exposure could be as detrimental to public health in the 21st century as lead paint, cigarettes, DDT, and asbestos were in the 20th century, items that were once thought to be safe. Can our society continue to survive more electromagnetic emissions pollution? As a parent and concerned citizen,
Mr. Carl, that's it. I'm sorry. We appreciate it.
Okay. As a parent, I implore you to stop this. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, did you want to go next, Mr. Hernandez, or did you want Mr. Henry?
No, Mr. Henry,
Mr.
Thank you all for giving me the time to speak. I appreciate us being allowed to speak for a little bit. My name is John Henry Liberty. I'm a candidate for U.S. Congress. I'm running for House of Representatives, District 21. That encompasses part of North San Antonio, San Marcos, and Austin, and extends out west past Kerrville. Before I decided to run, I was a software engineer. I've worked with Fortune 500 companies, small to medium businesses, client consulting work, as well as built my own applications. My specialization is in mobile and software development. I have a couple of serious concerns about this program and the message that it sends to the students and parents across the state. The first problem is a problem of funding. The initial cost for this program is $500,000. This money from the state is budgeted for education, not tracking students. The program has been called cost neutral, yet it still costs taxpayer dollars. It still costs teachers, it still costs the students. And the greatest cost of all would be the precedent set for the state of Texas that it is acceptable to treat children like cattle. And the real kicker is this program can be broken and rendered useless for under $100. Any student can build or buy an RFID cloner, clone a chip, and you have effectively multiple copies of the student wandering around campus. The process is akin to burning a CD. And almost everybody can do this, especially children who've grown up with technology. The second problem is the obvious ethical dilemma. Everything about this screams Orwellian authoritarianism. It is a direct violation of the Fourth Amendment. It is a violation of these students' rights to privacy. It is offensive. And if I had children in your school district, they would be pulled out immediately in protest. This is simply unacceptable, and whoever voted in favor of this should be ashamed. Thank you.
Okay.
Y'all know that my objection to this is religious abuse. Okay? I'm going to stand up and tell you again, there's no way in this green earth that God provided for us, my daughter's going to wear this chip. That's just plain and simple. If we try to push it into the other schools, my son's not going to wear the chip either. Okay. September 20th, 2 p.m., which was, I believe, Thursday, we had a non-formal meeting with Deputy Superintendent Ray Galindo. And I'm not going to, please forgive me if you feel that I'm bashing. If you think that I am, stop me, I'll try to change my rhetoric. Here's what was told to me. And I quote, I have it written down here in my book. Deputy Superintendent Ray Galindo says to me, I will make a badge for your daughter without a chip in it. He says, I will put a badge together for her, since your concerns are about her health risk and her being tracked. That's what, you know, Mr. Galindo, first and foremost, it was about her religious freedom. Mr. Galindo says to me, well, here's what we're going to do. I think it's a fair compromise that we go ahead and make her a badge. She falls in line with the rest of them. And she shows support for the program. So I in return asked Mr. Galindo, so what you're trying to tell me is that you want my daughter to sell out and support a program that's against her religious beliefs, against my family's religious beliefs. He says, pretty much. So my friend Michael Pettis here says, hey, let me see if I get this straight, Mr. Galindo. You want Andrea to fall in line with the rest and wear a chip or a badge around her neck, I'm sorry, without a chip? He says, yeah, pretty much. She needs to fall in line, wear it around her neck, and support the program. Now, how's that a fair compromise? And then the deputy here says to me, that is not going to happen. I said, what are you going to do, fine her next? He giggles and says, yeah, let's not forget about the fines. He says, because eventually, Mr. Hernandez, there's going to be consequences. And he says, and I'll tell you what, if she wears this around her neck, falls in line, and supports the program, I will reinstate her rights. I will make sure she gets all her rights.
Obviously, I'm sorry, stop the time. You're calling, and we're not able to respond to that. So please refrain from talking about the quotes.
Okay, well, you know, that's funny how my 3 minutes goes quicker than most people. Yeah. But bottom line is this. Bottom line is this. My daughter has rights, okay? You can't reinstate rights to her that she already has. She has rights. None of you up here can ask us to give up our religious freedom, our religious rights. This fight today, and I'll be quick, I promise, as you guys are asking us to compromise our faith. We're not going to do it. I have 350 signatures in that box right now from students, from John Jay, and parents from all over the city. And I've got 350 more coming.
Mr. Hernandez, your time is up.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. That concludes citizens to be heard. Next item on the agenda is curriculum and instruction.
When So it's up to us to put this out all over the world now, all over the city of San Antonio, all over the internet. The injustice just happened.